Asterisk, the snowstorm never stopped on the planet called Virex 9. Winds screamed across empty ice fields, and sharp flakes hit like needles. It was a dead world. Or so everyone believed. No cities, no life, just cold silence and frozen rock. But something had changed. A weak emergency signal was picked up by the human exploration cruiser Northlight. It came from the surface of Virex 9, repeating every few seconds. Just 5 words, broken and faint. "Help me, I am alive." Captain Juno stared at the message. On the screen, no ship was registered there, no colony marked. He ordered a recon team to land immediately. Private Kane, a tough scout with a sharp eye, was the first to step off the drop shuttle. The wind hit his face hard, and snow blinded him almost instantly. He adjusted his helmet and looked around. Nothing but white, endless white. Sergeant Doyle followed with 3 others, all of them wrapped in thermal suits and carrying scanners. They walked slowly, following the signal, their boots sinking deep into the snow. "It's coming from beneath," said Doyle, looking at the reader. 3 meters down, they started digging fast, pushing away layers of hard-packed snow. Their hands moved quickly. Time was not on their side. The signal was growing weaker. Then Kane shouted, "I see something." Everyone froze for a moment. He brushed away the snow and uncovered a small hand. It was not human. The fingers were long and slender, with a pale blue tint. Frost covered the skin, and it didn't move. But the signal was still beeping. They dug harder, uncovering more of the body. It was a young alien female. Her body curled like she had tried to protect herself from the cold. Her face was delicate, almost peaceful, though her lips were blue from the cold. "She's still breathing," whispered Doyle, his eyes wide. "How is that possible?" Kane dropped to his knees and checked her pulse. It was weak, almost nothing. "She's freezing to death," he said, pulling off his glove. "We need body heat now." Doyle looked around and pointed to a nearby hill. "There, broken outpost." Half buried, they lifted the alien girl carefully, wrapping her in thermal blankets. Then they moved fast, climbing over ice and rocks until they reached the shelter. The outpost was ancient and falling apart. Rust covered the metal walls, and the power was long dead. But it was better than the storm. They closed the hatch behind them, cutting off the wind inside. It was dark and freezing, but at least it was quiet. They laid the girl on the floor and turned on portable heaters. But it wasn't enough. "She won't make it," Kane said, already unzipping his thermal suit. "We need to keep her core warm. Human body heat is the only thing left." The others nodded. No one argued. 2 of the soldiers lay beside her, skin to skin, wrapping her tightly. They could feel how cold she was. Like ice, minutes passed, then an hour. Her body started to twitch. Her lips moved, but no words came out. Her eyes didn't open, but she was alive. "She's stabilizing," whispered Doyle, checking her again. "But she's not just some lost traveler." He pointed at markings on her neck-thin, glowing lines, like circuits under her skin. Kane stared, recognizing the symbol near her collarbone. It was the crest of the Zarellan royal line. She was a princess or something even higher. What was she doing out here, all alone? Kane asked. No one had the answer. Suddenly the radio beeped. A new signal came through a low, repeating tone. Doyle's eyes narrowed. "That's a tracker," he said. "Someone or something is looking for her." Kane looked down at the girl, still unconscious, her blue skin warming slowly under their care. "We found her under the snow," he whispered. "But now the real danger is coming." The wind howled again outside the metal walls, louder this time. Something was moving out there in the dark. Kane kept watching the alien girl, her pale blue skin slowly changing color as her body warmed. Her breathing was still weak, but steadier than before. The old shelter offered some protection from the storm, but not much. The walls creaked, and ice slid down from the ceiling. Every sound outside made the team nervous. Doyle sat near the entrance, his weapon across his lap, eyes locked on the small radar screen in his hand. The signal was still there, slow, steady, like a heartbeat. It was getting closer. She's important, Doyle said quietly, not looking up. Someone's coming for her. And I don't think they're friendly. Private Ames, the youngest of the group, shifted uncomfortably. Why would they leave her here, buried in snow? He asked. And why didn't they come back sooner? Kane didn't answer. He was still sitting beside the alien girl, his body wrapped around hers to keep her warm. She looked fragile, but something about her presence was strange, almost powerful. Even in this broken state, the girl moved again, just slightly, her fingers curling in the blanket. Her lips trembled as if trying to speak. Kane leaned closer. "Can you hear me?" He whispered, "You're safe now, just rest." Her eyes didn't open, but her hand suddenly reached up and touched Kane's chest. Her skin was warmer now, her breathing sharper. She whispered something, a word none of them understood. Then her body relaxed again. Doyle looked over. "She's waking up." "I think she's scared," Kane replied, "and she should be." Outside, the wind changed. It no longer sounded like a storm. It sounded like something moving through it, like heavy steps crunching the snow, slow and deliberate. The power flickered for a second, even though they had no generator running. Kane looked at the wall lights. "Did you see that?" Ames nodded, standing up. "Yeah, lights blinked. That shouldn't happen," Doyle said, standing too. "We didn't activate any systems." Suddenly, the radar screen turned black, then flashed red. Doyle cursed under his breath. "We've been scanned." Kane stood, wrapping the girl tighter in the blanket. "We need to move her. The shelter won't hold." A metallic clank echoed from the other side of the wall. Then another, slow and steady. Something was walking around the shelter. The girl's eyes opened for the first time, glowing softly. In the dark, golden and strange, she looked at Kane, her face full of fear, then pointed toward the roof and whispered one word in a broken voice. "Hunters." That one word froze everyone in place. Doyle's grip tightened on his weapon. "She just spoke. She knows what's coming," Kane said, standing and holding her close. "We need to block every entrance." They pushed crates and broken metal against the doors and windows, anything they could find. Every second the noise outside grew louder, heavier, like claws scraping against steel. Then the main door shuddered. Something slammed into it from outside, hard, again and again. Ames screamed and backed away. "They found us." The lights blinked again, and a strange noise filled the shelter, like a growl mixed with static, unnatural and low. Kane set the girl down gently behind a console and pointed his rifle at the door. Doyle and Ames took position too, hearts racing, hands shaking, their breath misting in the cold air. Another slam louder. The door bent inward slightly. The metal groaned under pressure. The alien girl sat up suddenly, breathing fast, her hands trembling as she touched the ground. Glowing lines appeared on her arms, like fire under her skin. Her eyes burned brighter. "What is she doing?" Ames asked, backing up, confused. Kane didn't answer. He just watched. The girl placed her hands on the floor, and the metal beneath them pulsed with soft blue light. A wave of warmth spread through the shelter. The lights steadied. The heaters grew stronger. And then silence. Outside, the pounding stopped. Everything went quiet. Only the wind remained. The girl collapsed again, too weak to stay awake, her body slumping into Kane's arms. Doyle checked the radar. The red signal was still there, but it had stopped moving, like it was waiting. "She stopped them," he whispered. "Somehow she scared them off." Kane looked down at her, this alien girl they found under the snow, her skin glowing faintly, her breath warm against his chest. "She's not just royalty," he said quietly. "She's something more." The storm outside began to rise again, hiding what was out there, but inside the shelter, something had changed. The team was no longer alone, and the girl they saved may be the only reason they were still alive. The shelter was too quiet, the kind of silence that made your skin itch. Outside, the storm screamed and the snow blew in wild circles, but inside, everything felt frozen, not cold, But still, too still, Kane sat with his back against the metal wall. The alien girl resting in his arms, her glowing markings dimmed now. Her breathing shallow again. She had stopped whatever was outside, but at what cost? Her body looked weaker, like the effort had drained everything from her. Doyle paced in small circles, eyes flicking from the radar to the windows and back again. The signal hadn't moved in over 30 minutes, but he didn't trust it. He'd been on too many dead planets to think the danger was over just because it paused. Ames sat near the heat core, trying to stay warm. His hands trembled, not from the cold, but from fear. "They're waiting," he muttered. "They're just waiting for us to step outside." Kane didn't answer. He looked down at the alien girl again. Her skin had changed slightly. Less icy blue now, more like pale white with a faint blush of color. Her lips moved silently, and then she opened her eyes. They were golden, wide, and full of fear. She stared at Kane like she was trying to remember where she was. Then slowly, carefully, she sat up. Her body swayed, weak, but she managed to stay upright. Then she pressed her hands to her chest and whispered something. Her voice was soft, her words broken, but Kane could understand enough. "You saved me," she said. Barely louder than the wind outside, he nodded. "Yes, we found you in the snow. You were freezing." She blinked slowly. "I ran," she said. "I ran far." Doyle knelt down beside them. "Ran from what?" The girl's eyes shifted toward the sealed door. Her lips tightened. "Hunters," she said. "They come. Take everything, kill. All." Kane and Doyle exchanged a look. The hunters were no legend, they were real. Ancient species that followed psionic signals. They hunted power, rare minds. Special bloodlines, they fed on them. That explained her markings, the glow. The strange power, she wasn't just royalty, she was psionic. "Why were you alone?" Kane asked gently. "Where was your escort? Your people?" She looked away. Her face twisted in pain. "Gone. All gone," she whispered. "Ship. Crashed. They found us. I ran." Doyle stood up and grabbed the radio unit. "We need to send a high-priority SOS now." He flipped switches and typed fast, but the system was old, damaged, and barely holding power. Sparks flew from the console, and then everything went dark. "No, no, no," Doyle muttered, banging the side of the unit. The storm must have shorted the backup. Suddenly, a new sound broke the silence, metal scraping against the outer walls. Slow and deliberate. It wasn't the storm. The girl froze, her eyes wide again. "They return," she said. "They always return." Kane moved fast, setting her behind a crate. "Stay low, don't move," he said. Ames stood with shaking hands. Lifting his rifle, Doyle raised his weapon too. Everyone pointed toward the door. The walls vibrated softly as the scraping grew louder. Then footsteps, heavy ones. They crunched over the snow, paused at the door, then continued along the wall. One of the vents above creaked. Kane looked up, and his stomach turned. A thin claw-like hand reached through the grating, long, black, sharp. Without thinking, he fired. A short burst that tore through the vent. The hand jerked back and a shriek echoed outside. Unnatural and chilling, the shelter shook slightly as something slammed into the side wall. Dust fell from the ceiling. Cracks formed on the upper corner. "They're testing us," Doyle growled. "They're smart, too smart." The alien girl reached for Kane's hand from behind the crate. Her skin warm now, glowing again. "Help," she said, her voice trembling. Kane knelt beside her. "You're too weak, rest. We'll protect you." She shook her head, placed her hand on the broken wall, and closed her eyes. Soft blue light flowed from her fingertips. And the cracks sealed, the shelter held, but her nose bled slightly, and she coughed weakly. Kane caught her before she fell. He held her close, whispering, "Why are you doing this?" She looked into his eyes and said, "You gave me warmth. Life. I give it back." Outside, the creatures howled again, circling, hunting. But for now they stayed away. Inside, Kane knew something had changed. The girl was not just another alien. She was becoming something more. And so was he. The cold returned like a living thing, crawling into the cracks of the shelter, biting into every weak point. The warmth inside the metal walls felt thinner now, like a candle fighting against the night. Doyle sat near the door, his rifle aimed steady, his fingers tight on the trigger. No one spoke, even breathing felt too loud. Outside, something walked in circles, slow, patient, listening. Kane stayed beside the girl, watching the rise and fall of her chest. The glow beneath her skin had faded again, but her body was warmer now. Her face no longer pale like ice. Her fingers twitched in her sleep, maybe dreaming, maybe remembering. Ames had moved near the back of the shelter, whispering into the backup come, trying again and again to reach the orbiting cruiser. Static answered every time. Until click, silence, then a voice, cracked and far away. Signal received, 6-hour delay, hold position. Kane's head turned sharply. Say that again. Ames looked up, his face pale. They heard us. A rescue drop is coming, but 6 hours from now. Doyle cursed under his breath. We don't have 6 hours. Another sound echoed across the roof, soft tapping, then slow dragging, claws, maybe hands, maybe something worse. Then everything went still. Kane's eyes moved to the roof, then to the door. Nothing happened, until thump, a loud hit on the side wall, then another, closer to the door. Metal dented inward, screeching under pressure. They're going to break through, Doyle said. We either fight, or we freeze in pieces. The alien girl opened her eyes slowly, her golden gaze sharp now. She looked at the shaking walls and whispered, They want me. Kane nodded. Then they'll have to get through us first. But she shook her head and said something else. Something different this time. They don't hunt alone. Kane leaned forward. What do you mean? She pointed to the wall, her voice soft but steady. They smell your heat. They follow warmth. Not sight, not sound, Ames gasped. That's why they didn't come sooner. We were cold at first. But now she lit up everything. Kane stood, pacing slowly. So what happens if we kill the heat? The girl stared at him, then nodded once. They lose you, Doyle raised an eyebrow. You want us to freeze? No, Kane said slowly. I want us to go dark, just for long enough to trick them. The team moved quickly, shutting down all heaters, pulling out heat sinks to reduce thermal bleed. The glow from the girl's body dimmed too. She wrapped herself in layers and sat still. The temperature dropped fast. Breath became fog, then ice. Fingertips numbed, joints stiffened. The team barely moved, barely spoke, just waited. Outside, there was movement scuttling across the wall, quick and sharp. The things outside paused at the door. Sniffing, scraping, but not entering. They hesitated. Then silence again, long stretching silence. Like a held breath, Kane's eyes met Doyle's. And just when he was about to whisper something, crash. The side wall shattered inward, and two creatures burst through the gap. They were tall, hunched, covered in black bone plates and glowing red eyes, claws long and dripping with frozen steam. Ames screamed. Doyle opened fire. Bullets slammed into the first beast, tearing through armor. The creature shrieked and crashed into the floor. Twitching, but the second one leapt. Kane tackled the alien girl, rolling with her behind metal crates. Just as claws slashed across the space they had stood in, sparks flew, metal groaned. Blood hit the wall. Ames fired blindly, shouting in panic, until the second beast caught him by the arm and flung him across the room like a ragdoll. He hit the wall with a thud and didn't move. Doyle screamed in rage and emptied his rifle into the thing's back. It turned to him with a hiss, then collapsed under its own weight. Twitching, smoke filled the shelter, mixed with the scent of blood and gunpowder. Kane crawled to Ames, checking his pulse. It was there. Barely, but there. He turned to the girl, who stood again, weak but upright. Her eyes glowed bright. She raised her hand, and a pulse of light pushed through the walls. A sound like metal humming filled the shelter, then faded. What'd you do? Kane asked. They will not come again tonight, she whispered, then fell forward. Unconscious once more. Doyle looked around. Breathing hard, eyes wide. They sent scouts, just scouts. Kane nodded slowly, lifting the girl in his arms again. The main pack is still out there. Doyle stared at the broken wall. Wind and snow pouring through it like a broken dam. Then we better survive until morning. The shelter was broken, half of one wall torn open by the attack. Snow drifted in slowly, covering the blood and bullet casings on the floor like the world was trying to hide what had just happened. Outside, the wind howled like a warning, but inside no one spoke. Kane wrapped the alien girl in a thermal blanket and placed her near the far corner. Far from the hole in the wall, her breath was weak again, her glow fading like a light running out of power. He felt helpless, watching her like this, after everything she had done to protect them. Doyle dragged metal panels from the storage room and began sealing the broken wall using his own tools, welding fast despite the freezing air. Sparks flew, lighting the darkness with quick flashes. They had no heater, no power left, but they still had a pulse, and as long as they were alive, they would fight. Ames groaned in pain, lying on the floor with a shattered shoulder. His face pale, teeth chattering. Kane pressed a med patch on his wound, but it wasn't enough. The patch would only slow the bleeding, not stop it. "She's the only reason we're not all dead," Doyle said suddenly, not looking up from his work. "Whatever she is, wherever she came from, she saved us twice." Kane nodded slowly. "She's something rare. Maybe sacred." The girl stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, and for the first time, she looked not afraid, but focused, like something had changed inside her. "I saw the fire," she whispered, her voice faint but calm. "I heard it. When they died." Kane leaned closer. "You mean the creatures?" She nodded, then touched her chest. "I feel them when they are near." "Then tell us if more come," Doyle said, "because we can't take another hit like that." She turned her head, golden eyes staring into the storm through the cracks. "In the wall, the pack is coming," she said softly. "But not yet. They wait for dark to return." Kane stood, heart heavy. "It's already dark." "Not full," she replied. "When the wind stops. When it's quiet." "They strike." Doyle finished sealing the hole, then checked the portable scanner. It was still fried, but the emergency flare module was intact. "If we launch this, the rescue ship might find us faster. Do it." Kane said, "We won't survive 6 more hours." The flare was loaded and fired through the ceiling hatch. A red burst shot into the black sky, cutting through the storm for just a second before vanishing behind clouds. But maybe, just maybe, someone saw it. The girl suddenly shivered, not from cold, but from pain. Her hands gripped the floor as glowing veins lit up on her arms again. Stronger than before, she gasped, and Kane rushed to her side. "What's happening?" he asked. She didn't answer with words. Instead, a pulse of blue light spread from her skin across the floor. And something incredible happened. The broken shelter hummed with energy. Walls straightened. Heaters blinked to life, and the emergency lights glowed soft white. She had activated the power systems, not with machines but with her own mind. Doyle stumbled back, shocked. She restarted the whole station. Kane held her carefully. But at what cost? Blood ran from her nose. Her breath came in short gasps. Her eyes flickered like fading stars. She had given too much. "No more," he whispered. "You've done enough." She smiled weakly. "I only borrowed what was broken. I didn't give all." And then she passed out again, her body limp but warm. The shelter now humming softly with heat and light, keeping them alive outside. The wind began to quiet. Doyle checked his rifle again. She said, "When the wind stops." "They come." Kane didn't move, just looked at the door, the walls, the snow. "We're not ready," he said, "but we will be." He stood up slowly, looked down at the girl wrapped in blankets, and whispered, "You saved us with your light. Now we'll protect you with everything we have." Because in that moment, Kane knew this wasn't just a rescue mission anymore. This was something bigger. This was survival of something ancient. Something powerful and something worth dying. For time was melting away like snow in sunlight, but sunlight never reached this planet. Only cold and darkness and the monsters that lived inside it. The shelter now glowed softly with warmth. Thanks to her, the alien girl lay sleeping, her head resting on folded blankets, her breath calm. But outside, something had shifted. The wind had stopped, and that silence was not peace, it was a warning. Doyle stood near the door, still as a statue. The scanner showed nothing, but they all knew better now. The hunters didn't need to rush. They waited, listened, studied. Kane loaded his rifle again. The last of their ammo clips strapped to his chest. His body was tired, his fingers numb. But his mind was clear. There was no running, no hiding, only surviving until the rescue ship came, if it came at all. Ames was sitting with his back against the wall, his shoulder wrapped in a blood-stained bandage, his face pale but determined. Even half-broken, he had chosen to stay awake, to fight if needed. None of them wanted to sleep anymore. Then came the sound, not footsteps, not claws, but whispers, dozens of them, circling the shelter like shadows. Not words, not in any language they knew, but they felt them in their bones. Girl stirred, slowly waking, her golden eyes opening with a sharp glow. "They're close now," she whispered. "Too close." Kane crouched beside her. "We'll protect you, I promise." "No," she said. "You must leave." "We're not leaving you," Kane answered, his voice steady. She placed her hand on his, warm and trembling. "I can hold them back," she said, "but not forever." Doyle slammed a crate in front of the door and looked back. "No more talk about sacrifice, we all get out of here." But as he said that, the roof creaked, and the lights flickered again. They were crawling above them now, surrounding the structure completely. Suddenly, a loud bang exploded from the back wall. A panel burst open, and black claws reached in, tearing through cables. Kane fired without hesitation, a short burst lighting up the wall. A shriek answered, then silence again. More hands, more claws. They weren't attacking the door anymore. They were pulling the shelter apart, piece by piece. Ames threw a grenade through the hole. The explosion shook the ground, but more came. Too many. They're not stopping. Doyle shouted, his rifle empty. "I'm out." Kane backed toward the girl, grabbing a metal rod and swinging it at anything that came through the cracks. Blood, smoke, pieces of wall all flew through the air. It was chaos. The alien girl stood, weak but tall, her body glowing like fire trapped inside skin. She walked to the center of the room and raised her hands. "No more," she whispered. A wave of energy burst from her, bright and blinding. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The creatures howled in pain outside, clawing at the walls like they were burning. And then, silence again. She collapsed, her power spent, her body limp in Kane's arms. He held her close, eyes wide, heart racing. "You're okay, you're okay," he kept saying, though he wasn't sure anymore. Then a sound above, different. This time, a low rumble, like thunder wrapped in metal. Doyle stepped outside the broken wall, looked up into the sky, and smiled. Lights cut through the clouds, bright, powerful, human-made. Engines roared overhead, and a voice crackled through the coms. "This is Northlight 2. We have your signal. Hold position." Kane looked down at the girl in his arms, her eyes barely open, her face pale. But when she heard the voice, she smiled faintly. "You did it," she whispered. "No," Kane said, holding her tighter. "You did." Above them, the dropship descended fast. Guns locked on the ground, and the fire from the sky finally reached the frozen world. The dropship came down like a comet of steel. Its engines roared through the thin air, shaking the frozen ground beneath. The hunters scattered like shadows fleeing the dawn, their twisted shapes vanishing into the storm as the human warship cut through the clouds. Kane shielded the alien girl with his body as the wind whipped around them, snow flying in every direction. Doyle waved a flare toward the sky. The ship responded with blinking lights, then opened its ramp. "Go!" shouted over the engine. "Noise! Get her aboard!" Kane didn't hesitate. He lifted her carefully into his arms. Her body was almost weightless now, her skin glowing soft blue once more, not from power but from warmth. Real warmth, human warmth. The inside of the ship was bright, sterile, and alive with sound. Crew members rushed forward with medkits and stretchers. But Kane didn't let go. "Not yet. She needs help," he said firmly, his voice cutting through the noise. "She saved our lives." The med officer nodded, reading the alien girl's vitals. "We've never seen this species before." She whispered, "She's barely alive." "She's more than alive," Kane replied. "She's a miracle." Behind them, Doyle and Ames climbed aboard. Ames was barely walking, but still grinning. Behind them, the shelter faded into the storm, and the night that had almost killed them was left behind. As the doors closed and the dropship lifted into the sky, the alien girl opened her eyes once more. Her gaze found Kane's, and she tried to speak. Her lips barely moved, but Kane heard it clearly. "Home?" she whispered. He smiled, eyes burning with emotion. "You're safe now," he said. "We'll take you home." "But I have no home," she whispered back, a tear sliding down her cheek, golden and warm. "They're all gone," Kane held her hand gently. "Then make a new one with us." Hours passed in the quiet hum of the medical bay, above the clouds now, away from the death below. Doyle sat near the front, watching the stars blink through the glass. Ames rested under heavy blankets, finally asleep, and Kane stayed beside the alien girl, who now had a name, though none of them could pronounce it. She told him to just call her Zira, the closest human sound that made her smile. Zara's body healed slowly, her energy returning piece by piece. But her mind, her heart held scars no medicine could erase. Kane didn't push her. He didn't ask questions, he just sat with her, sometimes silent, sometimes sharing stories. Of Earth, of music, of firelight, of laughter. One night, as the ship floated in orbit around the nearest station, Zara stood at the observation window, wrapped in a soft human coat, her glowing eyes watching the stars. Kane walked up beside her. "They'll want to ask you questions," he said gently. "About your powers, your past." "I will answer," she replied, her voice stronger now. "But I will only speak to those who listened, those who cared." He looked at her. "You mean us?" She nodded. "You gave me your warmth, even when I was a stranger, even when I was nothing but a frozen body in the snow." "You were never nothing," Kane said. "You were hope. We just didn't know it yet." She smiled, faint but true. "Then maybe now I can be something more." Later that day, Earth Command sent a message, not just to Kane and his team, but to all frontier ships, all research outposts, all human colonies. A new guest had been found, a survivor, a powerful one, and a friend. Zara stood beside Kane when the message went out. Her voice broadcast to millions for the first time. "I was hunted," she said. "I was cold, alone, forgotten. But you came for me. You, the humans who warm the dead and fight the night. You gave me life. And now I stand with you, across the stars." People listened, some with tears, some with wonder, because they knew this was the beginning of something different. A story that started with snow and silence, and ended with warmth and unity. In the quiet afterward, Kane walked her back to the viewing deck, where Earth glowed like a blue gem far away. "Do you still feel the cold?" he asked. Zara shook her head. "No," she said, "not when you're near." And for the first time since the day they found her under the snow, she laughed, not in fear, not in pain, but in joy, because she had survived, because they all had, together. The end.